We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are taking the show back out on the road. It's the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. Thought we'd be doing the World Series this week, but we didn't spend enough money to get in, I guess. We'll be watching the Dodgers and the Yankees, but on Friday we'll be at Mama's on the half shell, doing it up at Foundry Row, the old Painter's Mill in Owings Mills. Our friends at the Maryland Lottery give us the Ravens scratch-offs. We'll have these to give away. Also, our friends at the Jiffy Lube Multi-Care putting us out on the road. 26 years, 26 oysters. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions and 1-800 Clean Water. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. Also, our friends at Curio Wellness and Far and Daughter making the 26th anniversary happen. Browns and Ravens this week gives me a chance to get together with lots of old Cleveland friends. I do this guy's show a lot. Usually when we play the Browns, not so much Orioles, Guardians just yet, although maybe that can become a thing. Kenny Koda and I have known each other for about 30 years, ever since Art Modell pirated the Browns out of Cleveland. As I remember, you were like more of a Pittsburgh guy than a Cleveland guy doing radio in Cleveland. Now in the Cleveland, Canton, Akron area, proudly wearing his Pro Football Hall of Fame. Doesn't say Massillon on it, it says Canton. He is at 1430 WHB doing the afternoons there with the Kenny and JT show. Kenny Roto, the defending champion of all things Ohio. What's going on, man? How you been?
Well, it's been a fun baseball season for the Cleveland Guardians. Unfortunately, we lost to the Evil Empire, so came up one series short of reaching the World Series. And now that baseball season is over and football season is over for the Browns, we're focusing on the Cavaliers, who open up tonight on the road in Toronto.
Is that a Dusty Rhodes bobblehead over there over your shoulder? Who is that with the
That's the Nature Boy. Woo!
I couldn't tell because he has a knee pads on and looked a little bit more blonde hair like Dusty, but I figured anybody could have a Ric Flair one, but I thought if you had a Dusty one, it'd be guys more Dusty. But I love Ric Flair, so it's all good. Do you want to talk about the Browns? I mean, you're already led in with the Guardians. You want to talk some Ohio State because like the Browns thing here, we watch it from afar and watch what Flacco did and just the whole thing. It's a horror show for your fan base, you know?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even Jason and Michael Myers look at it and shake their head. They can't believe, how horrific it really is. And that starts at the top with Jimmy Haslam, the owner. He's trying to get a new stadium, which I'm fine with. Build a dome. I don't care where you build it. That should have been done in 1999, but we all rushed back, to get football in Cleveland back then. So Jimmy, as an owner, has been not very good in his assessment of talent, putting people in place to do certain jobs and then meddling, kind of like Jerry Jones does with the Dallas Cowboys, very similar. So it starts at the top. Andrew Berry, on paper, it looked like he put together a good roster. Well, you don't play the games on paper, you play them on the field. And we're finding out that this team is not a very good football team on offense, defense, or special teams. Andrew Berry, Paul D. Podesta, Mr. Moneyball, those guys deserve the blame there. And Kevin Stefanski, I can't give him a complete pass because he's got to play with the players he has. But sometimes you sit there, you scratch your head with the play calls and what he's trying to do offensively, and he's still calling the plays. He's a two-time AFC Coach of the Year. So I look at it, and it's just from top to bottom, it's been a complete disaster.
Kenny, I would just say, and for any of you media guys, and I've had Daryl Ryder on, I've had my old pal Bernie McKinney on, who's out of the business now, but all Cleveland Munch has been on with me and talking to all of you. And I was in Cleveland a couple months ago. Munch and I had breakfast talking about all this and where the Guardians feel like they are and where the Cavaliers have been. They've been the thing that has brought home the prize, you
Right.
know. And we're here in Baltimore trying to figure out new ownership on the baseball side. We've given $1.2 billion to these billionaires to build up stadiums that we built a generation ago. And, I beat David Modell up. I mean, we became dear friends, and he was a guy who never lied to me in his life. And I can't say that about many people. And I know you may feel differently about him in Ohio, but I remember beating David up in 95, 6 when the team came in saying, it's got to be a dome. You got to make it a dome. You got to make it a dome. Do you know we're going to get Mick Jagger? Do you know we're going to get these things? And it didn't make sense here for our people. We play football outside and all that. Yeah, and they use the stadium 10 times a year over 30 years, and it doesn't really benefit the community the way it should when you're forking it over. But once you've lost the Browns, and even as awful as they are, and all the decision making and all that, there still is a feeling you got to bend over backwards to get the stadium done. Because you didn't really do it well there. Where that stadium is and how you get to it and the prime land it's on, I I would say like Cleveland kind of did it wrong building it where it used to be.
I didn't have a problem building it where it used to be. I had a problem with not putting a dome on it and then building around it. Now they're finally offering up maybe Burke Lakefront Airport, right? As land where you can add some things and really make it a fun place to be with so many options, including year-round events if you had a dome stadium. So they're looking to move it to Brook Park, about 15, 20 minutes south of Cleveland. For me, that's closer. I live in Medina, so that'd be an easier drive for me. I used to work in Brook Park. I know the area very well. I don't
I've been to the ballet there. I pointed that out.
I don't care where they build it. I just want a dome. It needs to be a dome if you're going to be a player in any of these major events. So we'll see. They're talking about if they could break ground soon, they could have it ready for either the 2028 or 2029 season. So that's so far down the road. But the reason a lot of people are focusing on that now, Nestor, is because the team stinks this year. If they were winning football games, right, people would be excited about Deshaun Watson leading the Browns possibly into the playoffs. And you can say, well, didn't he do that last year? No, he did not. That was Joe Flacco. And you all know what needs to be known about Joe Flacco. And he's doing a great job as the backup with the Indianapolis Colts right now. So because the team stinks and they're 1-6, and right now they and the New England Patriots are battling for 1-2 as far as draft picks goes. The overall number one pick goes based on strength of schedule or weakness of schedule. People are sick and tired of talking Browns already on the field. And so a lot of the talk has turned to the Dome Stadium and whether or not that gets done. And now Mayor Bibb is talking about invoking the Art Modell rule, which supposedly, and I'm not a lawyer, so forgive me for not knowing all the ins and outs of this, but has something to do with not being able to move the team to play games outside of Cleveland. So it's just the Browns and that whole organization are a complete mess.
Well, and that's the problem, right? Like I saw the Padres win for a minute and Larry Lucchino out in San Diego to get Petco Field built, right? These municipalities, your place got raped. My city, I got my Baltimore Colts belt buckle up here that I hold up all the time for folks and show. I have my Houston Oiler trash can in the corner here. So I mean, I'm old school. I'm not. I have San Diego Chargers. I still call them that. So these teams move. Their businesses. They're supported by bigger money. And in cases of Oakland, they lost everything because nobody there wants to build anything because we have police, firefighters, schools, infrastructure, public health, crime, all of these grown-up issues that when I was 25 trying to steal your football team and thinking it was cool and we're going to build a stadium. And then I think a generation later, I've been thrown out as a media member kind of famously after giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars as a season ticket holder, fan, millions of dollars if you count what I spent on the road going to home and away games for 30 years. And they just took $600 million here quietly. Annapolis makes it happen. Nobody in Western Maryland. There's nobody out there. A couple Trumpers, a couple people over on the Eastern Shore, but they're sort of Raven Oriole people anyway. We got the Commanders here trying to figure out their stadium's a mess, and Northern Virginia doesn't want them because they can't sell that throughout the state. And you're in a place where nobody in Columbus or in Cincinnati or in the Trumplandia suburbs are going to say, let's give Cleveland something, and let's give a billionaire who's been a prick, an awful owner who put forth Deshaun Watson. Let's give him money. So I think the hardest part is we love the brand. We love the Browns. We don't want to lose them. We lost them once. What are we going to do for Jimmy Haslam? And how can he get over on any politician? Leontis has tried this down in D.C. with the Virginia people. Didn't work. Daniel Snyder didn't work. Here in Maryland, we just gave Angelos, now Rubenstein, $600 million and said, fix up your crib. And we just gave Bisciotti the money and your boy Sashi Brown. We just gave him the money and nobody's even said a word. And all they did with the $600 million was fix up. They threw the media out of the 50-yard line and put him up in the Kevin Byrne little house press box up in the corner now under the victory arches that David Modell told me about a generation ago. Um, that's what's happened here. And I don't know what's going to happen in Ohio, but I know it's an ish show. I mean, I know it's bad because it's awful. It's Jimmy Haslam. This is giving money to Angelos or Snyder. This is public enemy number one now because he dragged Deshaun Watson in and told your fan base to go pay for it and cheer for it and treat it like it's family and put his wife out in front of it. I mean, what happened there is just gross.
Well, it's going to go down as arguably one of the worst trades, not only in NFL history, maybe sports history, considering what they gave up to get Deshaun Watson and the results. This is season number 3 of 5, and he played because he's done for the season now. And I don't root for anybody to get hurt, so I wasn't thrilled to see that. The cheering or booing when he tore his Achilles there, and you could see it was a torn Achilles in slow motion when they showed the close up on it. But out of a possible, 17, 30, 51 games, he will have played 19 games for the Browns. His record is 9-10. And that was for 3 first-round draft picks, other draft picks, as well as guaranteed $230 million. So this will go down as one of the worst trades ever in sports. And I personally think he's played his last game, whether he comes back from this or not. I don't think he will ever play for the Browns again.
I just want, if I'm on the radio in Cleveland, as you are every afternoon, and I want to give the call letters out, 1430 WHB, Kenny and JT. Kenny Rhoda has been my friend for a long time. You can follow him at the Kenny Rhoda, Roda, not like Rhoda and Mary Tyler Moore, just Roda. To talk about this sensibly, it reminds me of with the Orioles. I did the walkout in 2006. I got thrown out. They stunk for another 6 or 7 years, and then they played decent for a couple of years and screwed it all up. The old man went away, and the kid came in and mismanaged it worse, and they lost and lost and lost, and the whole time said, well, we'll build it and we'll win. Well, now they're winning. They have a new owner. 10,000 empty seats at playoff games. The brand becomes damaged when guys like you have nothing to say sensibly about. I mean, I'm thinking if I'm on the radio now in Cleveland and this happened here and we jettisoned Lamar and they fell in with this criminal quarterback and gave him $250 million because our ownership's nuts and we're stuck with it in this cap number. And I'm thinking, well, what's going to be on the field? Are you now tanking to get the number 1 pick? What happens to Barry? What happens to Stefanski? And what level of trust could you possibly have in ownership to not only navigate this stadium deal, which is a big deal, but also to figure out that they're going to get the next thing right? You can have Sashi back if you want him, by the way, Kenny.
We've been down that road one time. Don't need him, and it'll be interesting to see if Andrew Berry is back for next year. Now, both he and Kevin Stefanski got contract extensions this offseason. And again, I have no inside information on this. It's just my Butch Davis, my gut feeling telling me this, okay? And that is those guys were rewarded for, yes, some success on the field, but also I think it was management, ownership, if you will, that wanted to make the Deshaun Watson trade and said, make this work and we'll reward you. But after this season, you have to wonder if one or both of those guys, get fired this offseason, unless they're starting to tank. And the first example of that raised some eyebrows was last week when before the game and Deshaun Watson even got injured, we find out that the number 2 quarterback was Dorian Thompson-Robinson and not Jameis Winston, who they paid $4 million for to come in the offseason to be Deshaun's backup in case they get in the playoff race because they saw how disastrous it was last year. Well, lo and behold, DTR gets the number 2 spot this past week, and we still don't know why. The explanations given by Stefanski don't make any sense. And what do you know? Deshaun Watson goes down with an injury. Dorian Thompson-Robinson comes in. He throws 2 interceptions. Jameis Winston comes in at the end of the game, leads them right down the field. Touchdown, 2-point conversion against the Bengals. They don't recover the onside kick. They lose 21-14. And you sit there and you go, well, isn't that what you brought Jameis Winston in here for? The best chance to win at quarterback. It's not DTR. He was in college for 5 years. Nestor, you know this. If you play 5 years in college football, that means you weren't good enough after 3 at quarterback to get drafted in the NFL, right? So you're sticking around for those 5 years. And now with NIL money, a lot of guys are going to do that because they're not going to be able to make it in the NFL. I don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a starting quarterback caliber player in the NFL. And so for me to see him trotted out as the backup, now he did hurt his finger. We don't know if he's going to play this week because of an injured finger on his throwing hand or if it's going to be Jameis Winston. But if it's DTR, that tells me they're tanking and they're looking towards having the highest possible draft pick next year with him. If they bring back Jameis Winston, could they win more games? Yes, but let's be realistic. They're not going to make the playoffs now at 1-6. That's not happening. So maybe tanking does make sense, and it's better to play DTR. And you could say you were just looking at him to find out if he was the future quarterback instead of playing Jameis Winston, who maybe they'll trade along with Zadarius Smith and others to teams that are in playoff contention, like the Detroit Lions looking for some defensive line help.
Is there any fumigating Haslam at this point? I mean, I think you get to the point with Angelos with me. I did the walkout in 2006. The one thing I'll go to my grave on, and I wrote this in a letter to David Rubenstein, is my conscience is real good that I chose the right side to say this isn't ever going to work because this person is unchangeable, unmovable, arrogant enough to bring Deshaun Watson in and give him against all of his partners' wishes. I saw how pissed Bisciotti was, at the owners' meetings 2.5 years ago. Just the notion of what he was going to have to go through with Lamar Jackson and what every owner in the league was going to have to go through, giving guaranteed money to anybody. You give it to Patrick Mahomes or Lamar's got 2 MVPs right now. You would say that's not certainly the Brown family then, and the other side of Ohio doesn't do business that way. It set a bad precedent in a lot of ways. I mean, is anybody on the Jimmy Haslam side? I mean, is anybody in Brook Park on his side? Is anybody in Columbus on his side? But more than that, the fan base itself, at some point, you just stop buying tickets when they get expensive, Kenny. You know that.
But having 3 years without football, this is still better than no football at all to a lot of people. And they're going to continue to buy the season tickets. They're going to continue to buy the merchandise. God bless the Browns fans, the most loyal fans, I think, in the entire world, based on what they've been through, especially when Art Modell was there. Yeah, he won a championship with Paul Brown's team. But after that, Art Modell got rid of Paul Brown. Art Modell got rid of Jim Brown. Art Modell helped get rid of Paul Warfield, and he sold the Browns to the Baltimore Ravens. So the fans have stuck by this football team, hell or high water, and they will continue to do so. But no, they're not happy with Jimmy Haslam and the football team that's being put out on the field each and every Sunday or Thursday or Wednesday or Friday or whenever Roger Goodell wants to play games these days.
It is amazing. I mean, I met you in the middle of the mess back in 1995. We're playing baseball playoff games, stealing your football team, all of that. And here we are like 30 years later through all this. My community has no respect for Art Modell, who's back on, and I see you wearing the Hall of Fame thing, to make any inertia to try to put forth anything for him. They also have no respect for the Irsay. Just the fact that Flacco's wearing a Colts helmet doesn't mean anything to anybody who's not 50 here. And the 13 years where we had the Washington Redskins stuck onto our televisions here, and they tried to keep our franchise out of here. They came in here in different helmets 2 weeks ago with their new star quarterback. There is an amnesia part for all of it. And there only really is the here and now and the right here and right now. And I do wonder on the outside when the Guardians feel like the place that's done right by the fans there for the longest period of time or trying hard and saying, we're not a big market. We can't sign certain players, but we can sign these players and still be relevant. I mean, it feels to me like the Guardians should be the beloved franchise there in the modern era.
It's a football city, and that we've had this discussion time and time again. It was a basketball city when the local kid LeBron was here, and he brings you a championship, first one since 1964. And now that last year they actually won a playoff series for the first time since 1993 when LeBron James wasn't on the roster, right? People are excited about tonight opening up on the road at Toronto against the Raptors and being one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. And maybe they'll have a shot at a championship run this year. So while the Cavaliers are good, the Guardians made an unexpected run into the ALCS. I picked them to finish under 500. I think a lot of people did not expect this. It was a surprise. It was a fun season. 2 million fans showed up. They sold out all the playoff games. So they love their Guardians, Indians, Tribe, whatever people call them still to this day. The Cavaliers are starting to become more respected and loved based on how bad the Browns are. But guess what? If you polled 100,000 sports fans in Northeast Ohio and said, what one team would you want to win a championship? I would say 90% of them would say the Cleveland Browns.
And, that's the NFL. That's why it's 365. Kenny Rhoda does a 365. He's on Monday through Friday out in the Canton Akron area. He's on 1430 WHB, the Kenny and JT show. You can find him at the Kenny Rhoda, RODA, out on the interwebs. Go ahead, Kenny.
My partner will kill me. 1480, not 30.
1480. Why did I say 30? I'm
Tell
an
me.
idiot. Okay, my bad. Okay, let's find it right.
Not
I'm
ask.
1570. I don't want to be 1580.
Yeah, 1480 WHBC. We're going to be 100 years old next year, 1480 WHBC. And this is our 80th year of doing high school football in Canton. And we have the huge game this weekend. It's the 135th meeting of the greatest high school sports rivalry ever. Kent McKinley is traveling to Massillon to play the defending state champion Tigers. And this will be our 135th go round of that great rivalry and our 80th year of doing it on the radio at WHBC.
All right, I screwed it up. 1480. I'll never do that again. Don't call me 1560 or 1550. I'm 1570. Kenny, it's always good to visit with you. And I love that every time I have someone on from your part of the world. And by the way, I went to Blossom and I saw Sammy Hagar and my dear friend Thomas Dolby. So I made it to that part of the world down there. I went to Old Richfield, the whole thing. And so I made my way out there, but Massillon, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. I call it Massillon. That's wrong, right?
Yeah, that's like your GPS lady that would say, you are now entering Massillon. No, it's not that. It's the Massillon Tigers.
Massillon. All right.
Massillon. Just let it roll.
Massillon.
Yeah, Massillon.
Like being masculine. Massillon. Okay, I'm working on it, man. I don't want to get my Ohio all messed up. I still know how to dot the I, though. I don't know how to do that. Kenny Rhoda is here. I'll be on his program this week as well, and it'll be on 1480, not 1430, knucklehead. The Maryland Lottery sends us out on the road on 1570. We're going to be up at the Foundry Row at Mama's on the Half Shell on Friday afternoon. Got some great guests, old friends. My old pal Mike Warren's coming by. We did a television show with LT and Buddy Ryan. 20s. I haven't seen him in 27 years. He's coming by on Friday. He's 82, and he's still picking games. My buddy Howard Scher, we're going to have a tribute to the late great Jeffrey Amder. Skippers on the Warpath, go. A little hockey talk on Friday as well with Hump and Howie, my old pal and former Critics' Choice DJ partner. Also, our friends at Jiffy Lube Multicare putting Luke on the road to Owings Mills as well. We have Ravens Browns short week, lots of Cleveland visitors as we get ready for football on Sunday. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. Massillon. I wish we were in Massillon. If I put TOWSON up, some people will call it Tosin, but we call it Towson.